Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some relative value thoughts here on Teaching Tech Tuesday as we potentially enter in a more favorable altcoin ecosystem. I don't think we've seen alt season yet. I think we've seen relative value season. We've seen a lot of alts catching a bid just because they've lost their way so much relative to BTC. Bitcoin dominance is evidence of that, in that dominance is still bullish on trend, but obviously on the USD pairs, lots of alts doing very, very well. So this is how I would go about tackling this into 2025. Whether you've done well on BTC or not, or you're an ETH maxi or a Cardano maxi or whatever, just some broad principles to think about. Because the last thing you want to do is be trapped in the wrong thing. You know, like, do I want to be trapped in DPIN tokens? Do I want to be trapped in the Cosmos ecosystem? Maybe you do. Maybe you're super bullish on DPIN or NFT or GameFi in 2025. But I think it's important to get a handle on that ahead of time. So first thing you want to think about is, what is your benchmark? My benchmark is BTC, but I know that's not everyone's benchmark. Some people measure against ETH or Sol or whatever, right? Maybe it's MSTR you're measuring against. Maybe it's something else in TradFi, like Mag 7 type stuff. Maybe you're measuring against Tesla. So whatever that is for you, it's important to understand that, and then use that as the measuring stick. What does the chart look like relative to your measuring stick, right? For example, Link ETH looks great. Link BTC looks great. From there, how do you take that trade, if at all, right? So separating it out into sectors so that we're not loading the boat here on L2s, unless of course you want to, right? But I would think about this explicitly and say, okay, do I want to be fully on board with DPIN here or AI tokens? Do I think meme coins are going to be another strong theme in 2025? I tend to think less so, but hey, maybe they will be. I think they're going to be weaker in 25 because they were so strong in 24. And I think, again, the relative value pendulum is going to swing away from things that are up 300% and into things that are not up 300%, right? Even in the intra ecosystem universe, there are lots of options where certain things on Solana aren't as up as much as others, right? And that's another way to tackle this is, let's say we like an ecosystem. We like the Cardano ecosystem, if that even exists, or whatever. How did that perform in 24? How did it perform in 23? And then what does that look like against the mothership, against the L1? Is there any strength there at all? Or is it just continued weakness? I personally prefer strength. I don't like sitting in weakness or chop. So the Link ETH chart, for example, I'll take a look at that. But that's one where it's been sideways for 2 years and it's potentially ready to break out. And that's the type of stuff I like to look for. And then you've got the subsector. You know, do you want your full relative value portfolio or slice sleeve section of the portfolio to be 7 lending and borrowing coins? You know, like, is that, if that's what you want, then that's okay. But you certainly have to make sure that you're not loading up the beta on one area too much that you don't like or that you're not aware of. And you're going to know what this stuff is most likely if you're trading it, but definitely something to pay attention to. And then on the selling pressure piece, also something, you just don't want surprises, right? You don't want to be the person who doesn't know that XYZ coin has a massive unlock in March 2025. Okay. As long as you're aware, at least for me, I always feel better knowing that it's coming versus being blindsided by it. You can find that information. I'll show you a place to do that, and then make the decision from there. And maybe instead of a 5% slice, you take a 2.5 slice, and then you reevaluate on a monthly basis. So if I was doing something like this on a part of the portfolio, let's say I liked DeFi because I do in 25, specifically for regulatory tailwinds. Let's say I didn't have a particular ecosystem in mind that I felt was the strongest. This is something I would do. Pick the top 10 and then allocate on a descending percentage. And that's it, right? I tend not to overthink the alt stuff too much, because if it's going to run, it's going to run hard and well. And if it's not, it's just not, right? There's nothing you can do. I really don't think going deep here and thinking, okay, maybe we should go 26.5% link and 12%. Like, I just don't think that's worth it personally. Maybe you want to avoid stuff that's new. Maybe you want to avoid dexes. I don't know, right? This is all up to you, but this is just an example of something to look at. Maybe you want to avoid maker because blah, 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 right? It doesn't matter. But it's one way to think about this. Make a list of things you like. Look at the charts. How do the charts look? Do they look like they have a pulse into 2025 at all? If yes, then you make an allocation decision. If not, you put it on a watch list and you just wait and you just allocate to something else, right? If this is your DeFi pillar or your fun altcoin sleeve or whatever, that's how I would do it. And then if you want just like a non-BTC portfolio, another example is just pick your 5 favorites in each category, whatever categories you like. In this case, these are the 5. Some non-BTC layer 1, an L2, DeFi, DePIN, AI. For me, I'm not deep in the trenches of altcoin land. So my knowledge base of a lot of the newer stuff is certainly very limited. That's why I focus on what I'd consider the household names, the blue chip names, the things that have been around a few cycles is my focus. So when I think of L2, I think of ARB, I think of STX. DeFi for me is Link and Aave. DePIN for me is Filecoin, HNT, Helium, that sort of thing. AI, Near, FET, right? But you can find lists of this stuff and then make the decision from there. You don't have to just guess based on what you know. And let's say you like, for whatever reason, you like a certain ecosystem more than another because you like Phantom and you're on Solana, then you can take it from there. But I think it's important to separate it out a little bit versus just like, okay, I like this one, because I saw some YouTube video or whatever. I think it's better to fully assess the lay of the land here. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro at the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to US and US territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. Looking at the old Bitcoin here, we're holding up decently well. We've expanded beyond 100K on a nice consolidation there and have reached the initial 1618 target. And as long as BTC can remain bullish and obviously bullish or consolidate, alts should do well. If you're rooting for a pullback on alts, what you want to see on BTC is a move to the daily Kijun, which is around 87. So in a perfect world, if you're fully unallocated, you want the pullback to buy into, right? You want something. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen here, right? But if I was trying to buy alts, I would want alts that were on sale. I want deep discounts from whatever prices we are here, just because everything is up a lot recently, right? So if we see alts for whatever reason down 20, 25%, that seems like a great day to deploy a strategy that you think holds up well in 2025. On the relative value side for the categories and the ecosystems, Kraken actually has a bunch of this listed out for coins on the exchange. So let's say we wanted to look at layer 2, depending on if we want this in, we'll go to USD. Depending on how they have this categorized, you may or may not agree with it, right? And now STX isn't here. Just in my mind, STX is a layer 2. That doesn't mean it's actually layer 2. But TIA is another one that on a relative value basis has been beaten down a lot by BTC. In that chart I've shared a bunch. That also looks good. If we look at the ETH pairs here, we do have a link ETH on Kraken. And zooming out, this is the type of thing I'm talking about. What I either want to see is just years of chop, or a downtrend starting to end. I actually feel more comfortable with a chart that looks like this, that will eventually see good times once again, versus something that's, let's say, at this point here in 2023. So for me, the litmus test is simple. Years of death, years of nothing. And then you come in and you say, oh, look at this, we're above the weekly cloud, or whatever your trend metric is. That to me is a great opportunity, a great relative value play. Again, depending on your benchmark. Now, a lot of people obviously have done well recently on alts, That isn't to say they have done poorly for the past 2 years on alts on a relative value basis, because they just have, if you've been denominated in alts. So what you're really hoping for on a relative value strategy in 2025 is a full trend breakdown of BTC dominance, at least for a quarter or two, ideally, is where we typically see that alt season pop off. And it's to the point where you need to sort of be ready a little bit, at least know what you're looking at and looking for. Otherwise, you're just going to be chasing everything. Like a lot of people are sort of chasing alts over the past month, but that's going to get a lot worse if alts go where they might go. Again, we may or may not get an alt season. I just think we've had thus far the relative value season. Another way to look at these categories is on CoinGecko. They have a categories section separated out by market cap here. And I just think it's important to have the lay of the land, right? What type of categories are we talking about here? And within the categories, what do we like? What do we not like? What have we never heard of? In the AI category, do I need exposure realistically to more than 5 of these? Probably not. But hey, if you really like AI, maybe you do. Maybe you buy 10, maybe you buy 20. I don't know. But for me, in any given category, I think beyond the top 5 names, it gets a little loose the more we scroll down this list, right? For the unlocks piece, DeFi Llama has a great section on that, where we can go and we can search. Does, for example, Curve have any unlocks? No. What about Link? Link has no known unlocks. I believe that's the read there on that one. Let's try Aave. Aave, no. Let's try Cardano. No, that's Abracadabra. Okay. Well, you get the point. You can run your list through here and say, okay, are there any upcoming unlocks, judging based on their size, that you think are going to be important or not, right? Again, this is up to you, but as far as some basic bare bones fundamental analysis, Aptos here with the 2% unlock coming in the beginning of 2025. Maybe you see how the market digests that information and the actual coins themselves, and then add that to your slice or sleeve on the relative value portfolio section. For another way to monitor and surveil where the puck is going, TVL has been a popular metric. I don't hate it as far as seeing where is money being deployed. Is money being deployed in a specific ecosystem, a specific type of category here? Where are things headed, right? That's another way to look at this and tackle this. Do you think the leaders are going to continue to lead? Do you think the laggards are going to catch up? Do you think a specific category is stronger than another? Do you think somebody's going to eat somebody else's lunch? That sort of thing. So you can do that all here on DeFi Llama. And something else I would definitely encourage is look at these relative value plays against legacy, against the S&P, against the NASDAQ, against Mag 7. This is Sol against MSTR. Sol USD hasn't been performing well, but against MSTR, maybe it's time. This is a relative bottom level from 2023 that's pretty interesting. So maybe it's time for some relative value strength here on Sol versus MSTR. Now, the MSTR folks would tell you that's crazy, but I'm just looking at the chart. The trend doesn't favor Sol, but at the same time, it's also mega oversold. Huge TKC clamp there, starting to form, signifying oversold conditions. But one thing this helps you do is avoid obvious death traps, right? Obvious landmines like 2022. It helps you avoid the beginning of 2024. If alts are leverage and MSTR is leverage, where is the better leverage? The better leverage, for the most part, has been MSTR. But at this point, we are near a local low, almost near an all-time low on Sol relative to MSTR. This is total DeFi relative to MSTR, kind of like an ETH BTC pseudo pair. Again, it's like MSTR is looking a little soft here. I think the bigger issue isn't the relative value. It's, can BTC hold up long enough for alts to get rotated into? I think they will. I think BTC will, but just something else to consider into 2025. And then on the RWA front, there's a whole website here, rwa.xyz, if you want to dig in there on the chains and the types and the assets and who's doing what where. I mean, maybe we put PayPal in this conversation as far as RWA, right? Maybe that goes in your sleeve, even though it's TradFi and not exactly on chain. It may do well, PayPal may do well based on expansion of RWA, based on stablecoin legislation, based on regulatory tailwinds, right, of 2025. So I would definitely take a holistic approach here and probably a longer term view, not just, what can pump 25% next week. It's more like, what can I sit in comfortably that's been beaten down and done nothing for a little while, and what might have a run in 2025. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.